Good evening. Welcome to the 25th episode of the We All Serve podcast. I am your co-host, Shalom Klein, and I'm thrilled to be joined by fellow co-host, Angel Torres, over here. Angel, hey. Looking dapper as always.
Thank you. I was thinking about our podcast yesterday, and I was like, some people have like a sign-off thing and like a catchphrase like, see you later, or don't step on an IED or something. I think mine would be like, buy everything Kirkland. It's all wonderful. Like the Costco brand.
Did what caused that thought? Were you like watching Anchorman or something?
Probably, yeah.
No, there's some good closing lines. I mean, honestly, catchphrase, everything. So hey,
69% of the time it works all the time.
Episode 25. I mean, episode 25. That means like we've been around. It's cool.
They haven't thrown us out.
Yeah, I mean, hey,
no one's filed a complaint, which is even better.
I didn't tell you about the one last week, but hey, I'll leave that for later.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for this one. I'm excited for everyone, but this one's cool. This is going to be a good conversation, and I know that you have been excited about this because finally it's somebody that's not in the Army.
Yep. He walks upright and can breathe and talk and walk at the same time and without needing to take a knee. It's great.
So honestly, I'm curious about this. In the Navy, what do you think about your Marine brothers and sisters? Like, do you consider them like, are they brothers, sisters, stepbrothers, sisters? Like, how does that work?
We're the bus drivers.
You're the bus drivers.
They go do the cool stuff and we just drive the bus.
Okay.
We drop them off. We go pull up to a coast. They kind of get in their LCAC or amphibious assault vehicle, invade and do their thing. And because nobody takes over.
You're still waiting there. You got your feet up over there, and you're like, I'm here.
What time's lunch? They got MREs? Yeah. What time's the galley open?
Yeah. Yeah, you're the guy that's serving Starbucks, right?
Yeah, but they're great. I mean, I think if it wasn't for all the marching, I think I would have loved being in the Marines and that whole formation and drilling thing. It didn't really appeal to me, but they just do great things with less. And they don't make any excuses like just get the mission done, and the brotherhood, once a Marine, always a Marine. It's fantastic. So I'm really glad that we're having Joe and what Joe's been able to do, since he left the Marines, to continue to serve and continue to support veterans in a very authentic, meaningful way. Just blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. And with Microsoft backing and everything. I'll let you go ahead and read his bio and talk about him, but otherwise I would just talk about what I know about him, which is quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for this. And hey, listen, maybe on the next episode, maybe we'll because we're actually having a Navy guy on the next episode. Can we get like a exclusive footage of like your time in boot camp or something? Like maybe just a sneak peek of like what Angel was like marching or something. I don't know.
I was on the ships were wooden. And Davy Jones was there. And we just called him Dave. We was anything fancy. It was, yo, Dave.
All right. Well, I am indeed excited about this conversation. And let's see. Here he is. There we go. Joe Wallis is the Senior Military Engagement Manager for Military Affairs at Microsoft. He manages Microsoft's on-base military engagement for Microsoft Software and Systems Academy, as well as Microsoft's other military programs. Joe has supported military recruiting engagement at Microsoft for more than 4 years, and more than half of his nearly 20 years of recruiting experience has been focused on transitioning veterans. He's a second-generation service member. Joe is a retired lieutenant colonel from the United States Marine Corps Reserve and has 28 years of combined active and reserve service. Upon commissioning as a second lieutenant, Joe spent more than 5 years in active duty as a comms officer and recruit training commander, dealing with folks like Angel. Hey, that's it. He served on active duty for more than 5 years post 9/11, supporting the European Command, Southern Command, and Headquarters, Marine Corps. Joe earned a bachelor's degree from the U.S. Naval Academy and a Master of Arts in International Relations from the University of Miami. He has also studied at the Naval War College, the Joint Forces Staff College, and the National Defense University. So without further ado, absolutely thrilled to bring in Joe Wallis. Joe, such a pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. And I have to update that bio a bit from the beginning. I've been at Microsoft a bit longer than the 4 to 5 years, but no worries.
I'm going to clarify that in a second.
What's that?
I'm going to clarify that in a second and start into your journey and everything. And,
thanks for having appreciate the time today and the conversations. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, in our conversations, Joe, I know you're from good stock because your dad was a senior chief and he was a chief warrant officer. I don't know anybody like that, but they're probably pretty good guys.
That's what I hear.
They're probably right. I don't know. So,
my previous conversation, let me first start out. So I'm glad I wasn't in the Army. I'm glad that I've been a good passenger on the bus. And
that's what I just told Shalom. I was like, we're the bus drivers. It's great.
And I'm happy to be here today. So thank you.
It's fair. I'll take it. I'll take it. It's all good. No, it's good. I beat up Angel all the time. So, hey, listen, you're welcome to beat me up a little bit too. So, yeah, no, it's fun to have you. And I'll just kick it off by asking, joining the Marine Corps Reserve. So a lot of folks don't know a lot about the Marine Corps Reserves. Can you tell us, did you enlist active duty or how did that work?
No, so all Marine reservists actually start off active duty unless you go to boot camp and enlist as a reservist. So there are enlisted Marines that will enlist. They go through boot camp, go to their MOS school, and then they're right to the reserve component. On the officer side, all reservists have spent time on active duty. So could be 3, 4, 5 years. From the Naval Academy, you spend 5 years on active service, kind of to pay back your education, and then so I did my active duty time, and then I wanted to stay connected to the Marine Corps, so I joined the Marine Corps Reserve. I was a what they call SMCR, which just meant I was an active reservist and assigned to a unit. So the typical reservist will spend their 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks out of the year either doing an exercise or some sort of training. So that's what I did for a number of years. I discovered there was other types of reserve duty, and I became what's called an IMA reservist, which stands for Individual Mobilization Augmentee. And that's where you belong to an active duty a command as a reservist, and then you just work out your reserve time throughout the year. So I ended up doing that. I did quite a few years as an IMA post 9/11, and then I was actually activated as well.
I was going to ask about that. I figured you were activated 1 or 2 times and had to deploy with an active unit or to augment and support them, right?
Yes, I augmented actually several active duty units during my time post 9/11.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's sort of my Marine Corps Reserve explanation, so to speak.
I always loved how the reservists, when they get to an active unit, sometimes there's like kind of a stigma associated with reservists, but as I matured and as I grow and learn, there was so much that the reservists brought to the table and a way of looking at things that wasn't inside the same echo chamber, that they just came at it from a different point of view and looking at things and just had a whole different insight that really helped the organization overall. I haven't seen one instance, I haven't seen an instance where it was like a detriment or anything like that. They just always brought this unique skill set and insight.
Yeah, I think it depends where who you were with. I mean, I did see a little bit of that when I was on active duty at Quantico. I was completely with the active duty side,
sure.
And I was on orders. It wasn't an IMA type of arrangement. And yeah, there was a little bit of the he's a reservist kind of thing. That's fine. I sleep well at night, so I didn't have any what people thought about me. So
Gotcha. With your road from Marine, and Shalom, if it's okay, I'm going to jump in. We talked about Bradley Morris and your journey doing different things. How did that occur where I realized at some point you left the Marines and you started your transition? And what a lot of people I want to convey on the podcast is what Joe's journey was like transitioning. Was it opportunity? Was it I knew a guy who knew a guy? Or was it I just sought this and it fit?
Yeah, so initially I left active duty in the fall of 1991. So it was about 5.5 years of active service, for my commissioning time. And the economy wasn't great. I was looking to stay in Southern California. I was stationed in San Diego at MCRD, and things just kind of weren't clicking. So I ended up going back east, and I worked with a company called Lucas Associates. And they found me a position. I was in New York, and I had come off of off of my active duty time as a training officer at MCRD. So I ended up in a training position, delivering corporate leadership development. So it was a prepackaged sort of a leadership development course that the company had bought. It was actually from a organization called Zinger Miller, and it was called Frontline Leadership. So I ended up taking almost a week-long class to be certified to facilitate this course. And it was for supervisory employees at this company I was with up in the New York City area. So I was on the John F. Kennedy Airport. It was called Sky Chef. It was actually LSG Sky Chef, which is the in-flight catering company. Oh. And I was there for actually less than a year. It really wasn't what I was looking for long-term. And I had connected with an individual who I had known in the past. So this is when I get to the, I know somebody who knows somebody sort of thing. I met this young naval officer when I was in high school on my way to the Naval Academy Prep School. And he knew my father, who was a chief warrant officer in the Navy. He was a supply officer for VQ2 in Rota, Spain, where I was in high school. And I ended up seeing his name at the back of the Navy Times as, if you're looking for job placement, this is my name. And he was at Lucas Associates. He actually ran the Lucas military recruiting.
Is that Lucas Group now?
It's Lucas Group. Yeah, I think it's Lucas Group, or maybe it became.
I just want to make sure it's the same company. They target like military officers, senior listed and stuff like that.
Yeah. And Lucas does other types of recruiting as well. They just happen to have a military division. Mm-hmm. So Sean Bradley is this individual's name, and he ended up moving on.
Oh my God, Sean Bradley.
Company. So he built Bradley Morris, and I connected with him. I was taking that course to be certified for frontline leadership in Atlanta, where he was. And we ended up having dinner. And he had just started Bradley Morris maybe several months earlier and was talking to me about it. I remember leaving that dinner going, wow, he's kind of selling me on this kind of career and this sort of job. And then so when I was looking to do something else, I gave him a call and said, hey, I kind of want to do something else. I'm not really happy up here in New York. So he said, come down to Atlanta. We're going to have a hiring conference. I'll set you up with some interviews. So I interviewed that day with several companies. And at the end of the day, he said, hey, Joe, you want to join us at Bradley Morris? And I go, okay, sounds good. So I trusted him. So I was just someone how I met and had kept in kind of loose touch over many years. And I thought, wow, this seems to be an interesting career. And I kind of fell into recruiting without ever thinking about it in the past. I never thought of being a recruiter, and it just fit my personality. It kind of just fit me as a person, someone who's curious, likes connecting with people, sort of, likes to train people as well and make those strong connections. And I was someone who had kind of kept a network anyway. And I mean, that's how I stay connected to Sean Bradley, I was someone who wanted to keep a network. So I fell in. I didn't understand what 100% commission meant, but I found out soon.
You keep what you kill.
Yeah, exactly. That first year at 100% commission in a startup company, it's kind of rough, but my reserve pay helped out a little bit. And we grew the company. So I remember my first day at Bradley Morris. I remember it as if it was yesterday. Sean gave me 71 manila folders with a little sheet of paper in there with names, phone numbers, and email addresses and said, go to work, start calling these people and get them, connected to us so that when they transition, they use Bradley Morris to interview. So that's kind of how I landed at Bradley Morris. Kind of long story, but I think those components of it were important. And it to me, it was all about kind of keeping in touch with folks and keeping a network. And it was something that kind of just came natural to me and something I was very comfortable with.
Joe, let's be honest. During your first year, commissioned, 100% commission, were you just eating MREs to save money?
Well, sort of. I sort of had an MRE house. I live in an apartment. I did my weekend drill. I was on a draw, so I was making a little bit of a draw monthly, but I had to pay all that back. I had to pay it back. And it was honestly, it took about 9 months to where I started, making money. And but it was fast paced. It was fun. We were just a small group. I think I was the 7th or 8th person there.
Good people, all focused, all
Yeah,
team oriented.
it was great. We're just, it was, long hours, working hard. I was on the road. I was just, they said, here's your corporate Amex. I never had to fill out a expense sheet or anything. I just went and did my business and never saw anything. So it was exciting, and we were building a business. So it was a lot of fun, and I still keep in touch with all those folks. And Bradley Morris is still around, so they're still plugging away.
Oh, they're huge.
Kind of a different form, but they're still there.
Yeah, you mentioned that there was an element like between Recruit Military and them, like you were running the Recruit Military division, and they bought.
No,
How does that work? I must have got it wrong.
Well, this was way before Recruit Military. So Recruit Military was its own company, and Bradley Morris kind of formed up with, either bought them out or started a joint venture, because it's now Recruit Military is part of Bradley Morris. And that's been about maybe 2 or 3 years ago, something like that. So, yeah, in fact, the guy that I connect with typically for a couple of events that I'm connected to
is that Mike Quinn?
No.
Okay.
No. Mike, I don't think Mike Quinn.
He's with EY now, but I thought he was with Recruit Military.
He may have been. I'm not sure. I mean, I used to deal with somebody at Recruit Military who was based out of Dallas, but it wasn't Mike Quinn.
So Joe, you've talked about your passion for recruiting, and it certainly sounds like it has been a perfect fit with your personality and everything. But what I'm fascinated by is really that connection between the two. It sounds like really big passions for you, recruiting and military. And anybody watching, and I didn't do my usual plug in the beginning, so if you're just listening, make sure you're getting on YouTube and watching the conversation. Click subscribe, share, rate. It makes it easier for people to find it, all that good stuff. But for people that are watching, they see the Marine Corps flag behind you, and really, when did that click, that it's not just recruiting, but you actually almost have a responsibility, and you have an understanding of folks, your brothers and sisters across all of the branches, that you understand their skill set and the place that they might fill in the corporate sector?
Yeah, and that was a learning process. I mean, when I went to Bradley Morris at that time, most of it was focused on the junior military officer. That was where the industry was. That's where most of the placements that we had. And it was quite a bit in manufacturing, supply chain. Then it started moving a little bit into tech. And we didn't do sales at Bradley Morris, unlike some of the other companies in the JMO business. They did sales positions at Bradley Morris. Sean Bradley and Sandy Morris, who's the Morris of Bradley Morris, they decided not to do anything in the sales area. So, I was very familiar with the Navy and Marine Corps when I came to Bradley Morris, but I really didn't know as much about the Army and the Air Force. And so when I went out and started meeting people, I just, had to learn about all their, and, it's not that much difference in the Army from the Marine Corps. I mean, the same sort of, infantry-based organization with all the, with all the support elements, but kind of learning about their career paths and what skill sets they brought to the table was just something that I went out and educated myself on. And what I was trying to be was a coach. I mean, these individuals were spending, most of them about 5 to 10 years of active duty, and they were looking for someone to kind of coach them through that transition and provide some advice on how to interview, how to put your resume together, how to present yourself, how to translate your skill sets, and how to be likable in an interview. I mean, how important is that? Is people typically hire because they kind of like you and they want you to join the team, and all the other stuff is just kind of gravy. And being able to do the job and having a skill sets typically gets you to the interview, and then at the interview you gotta show that you're someone that they want to work with day to day and can be a good team member and someone who will collaborate and all those other kind of great things of bringing somebody onto your team. But it was something that, I just went out and just learned. And like I said, back to what I said earlier, my curiosity, I just always curious. I was just asking questions. I'd sit down with someone and, tell me about yourself. And I would just ask questions like, what did you do as a maintenance officer for an artillery, brigade or whatever the hell you were doing. So I was just out kind of filling up my toolbox with all the different aspects of knowing what people did and what made them tick while they were on active duty. I'm not here.
And now you guys got to listen to me. I'm sorry about that. I was commenting earlier about that very dashing shirt you're wearing with Team Rubicon. I'm very familiar with the mission and what they do, and I'd love to hear more about not just the Team Rubicon piece, but then we'll follow up and talk about your podcast after that. But I'd like to hear about some of the things that you're involved with Microsoft and veteran outreach like Team Rubicon.
Yeah, so I'll just give you briefly what I do at Microsoft on the military affairs team. So I'm on the military affairs team. I came to Microsoft originally. It's been actually a little over 10 years now. I just celebrated my 10-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thanks, on November 29th. And I initially came to the company to build a veteran-focused recruiting program to try to get the company to kind of focus on military recruiting and outreach to that community. And it evolved into the military affairs team. We do have a vice president of military affairs. He's a retired major general from the Marine Corps. I actually interviewed him when I first came to Microsoft, but he was in a different part of the company. He was supporting our account teams primarily in the DoD space. And so now my official title is Director of Engagement for the military affairs team, of military engagement. And the primary focus of our team is a skill bridge program called the Microsoft Software and Systems Academy. And it's now over 7 years old. We have 15 classrooms across the US, and my team, what we did is we expanded the program from our initial pilot, which was up here in the Puget Sound area outside of Joint Base Lewis McChord. And we formed and kind of built all the relationships at the installations. So our classrooms are primarily on bases across the U.S. And we built those relationships with the base uniformed command, base commander, base sergeant major, and then all the stakeholders on a base that support transition, from the transition center, the education center. And then bases now have skill bridge, or the Army calls them career skills program managers that help people to help them enroll or to find a skill bridge program that meets kind of what they're looking for as they transition. So that's a Microsoft Software and Systems Academy. That's our primary focus on the Microsoft Military Affairs team. And then I also manage most of our relationships with the veteran nonprofit organizations that we work with. Organizations like Hiring Our Heroes, Student Veterans of America, Team Red, White, and Blue. We do some work with Team Rubicon, actually through Microsoft Philanthropies. They've got a great relationship with Team Rubicon, and a few other smaller ones. We also do some work with the USO and others as well. And then another aspect of my role is Microsoft hosts a number of fellows on fellowships from the military. So there's an active duty fellowship program called Training with Industry. The Air Force calls it Education with Industry. And these are active duty service members that spend a year at Microsoft, and then they go back to the service. And they're typically in the tech field. They're working in technology. They're either a cyber or a communications officer. Army may call them signal officers. And then we also have fellows that come through the skill bridge fellowship programs, like with Hiring Our Heroes corporate fellowship. So that's most of what I do. That's kind of, I'm sort of the relationship person, if you want to narrow it down to one word. Joe is the relationship person.
Sounds like a job that was actually, I don't know, kind of made for you, and all the things that went into your life and experience and everything kind of came together in one nice little shirt to put on, every day. It just fits.
Yeah.
I know you're doing a lot of great work with people like Monica McNeil, who introduced us, and Amazing people.
I've known Monica for a while when she was with 4 Block. We used to host them here.
I'm an alum.
All right. Yeah, great organization. And they would come on campus. We'd spend an evening and, book a nice conference space and have some guest speakers and things like that. So we do that with a lot of some organizations out there. But yeah, I'm very fortunate. I get up every morning and support the military community, where I came from. So it's a nice space to be in.
Joe, if I can go back to your time in the Marine Corps, and I mean, tell us a little bit of some of your, call it, favorite people, your greatest mentor, anybody that you want to shout out, but then any of your just experiences. You have a illustrious career in the Marine Corps, and a lot of folks don't understand that reserve life, where you've had that sort of dual life going on. But where have you been? I mean, tell us a little bit about some of those experiences and how you've grown even in your civilian life through your military service.
Yeah, thanks for that. So I like talking about my Marine Corps time because it was awesome, experience, and the people I served with was, the best part of it. So I remember one of my early kind of leaders that really had a big impact on me was my company commander at MCRD San Diego. He ended up retiring as a Colonel Jim Riley. As a lieutenant colonel, he was a commander of the Force Recon Battalion at Camp Lejeune. And Jim was just a great leader. I mean, I would have kind of, people say you kind of walk through fire for somebody or something like that, but he was just a motivating, and it wasn't, and it was just kind of a caring leadership, a coaching type of what he did as so the way we were set up, if you're not familiar with a recruit training there, so we have a company and then there's 2 series per company, and those series have those recruit platoons. So I had one of the series under Jim, and then we kept in touch. Actually, when I was doing a 90-day stint at Camp Lejeune in 2001, in fact, that kind of was when my life changed as a reservist, because I was there on 9/11. He was a lieutenant colonel at the time, just been selected for command. I saw him there. He was working at 2MEF and
Marine Expeditionary Force.
Yeah, Marine Expeditionary Force. So, and then besides Jim, there's been kind of too many. And I want to mention another person who we were actually in a communication school together. So after the basic school, I went to comm school. I was a communications officer, and there was a group of about 4 individuals who had been another MOS. So they had been a combat arms MOS. And at the time, if you were not a regular commission, it was really difficult to get a regular commission in the Marine Corps. And a lot of individuals that came under that were commissioned under reserve commission, were just asked to leave. And it was really but what they did to some who were in the combat arms, like an infantry person or artillery, is they would offer them a regular commission, but then they had to take a lateral move to a different MOS. So we had these salty guys who their camouflage, or their camis were a bit bleached out because they'd been washed a few times, and we're all wearing our fresh camis, and we
call that salty, being salty.
They were salty. Yeah, they were. Yes, there was one guy named Don Wagaman, and Don was in my communication school class. And then we ended up being stationed together out in Okinawa at Comm Squadron 18. And I kept in touch with him over the years. And we were sort of just, we were just lieutenants at the time. He was a first lieutenant. I was a second lieutenant. We were, doing our thing. I had a platoon. He had a platoon. We were doing our year in Okinawa. And I kept in touch with him over the years. And when I was at Camp Lejeune in 2001, the summer of 2001, and I was there on 9/11, I happened to see him like a day after 9/11, either 1 or 2 days after. And he had just been at that unit as well. He had been at Camp Lejeune, kind of Marine. And he was now stationed in Stuttgart, Germany. And he was the G6 for Marine Forces Europe. And I remember I'm walking the hallway. I was in the 2MEF G6, and he just said, "Hey, Joe, what are you doing?" I go, "I don't know, man. It happened yesterday," right, or whatever. And he said, "But I said I'm in." I said, "Whatever the Marine Corps wants me to do, I'm in. I'll volunteer and do what I need to do as a Marine." And he said, "Well, hey, do you want to come work for me in Stuttgart?" And at the time I lived in Europe. I just say I lived in Madrid, Spain as a civilian. And I said, sounds good to me. I mean, like orders and all that kind of stuff. And then he started showing me like a PowerPoint presentation. I said, hey man, I know where you live. I trust you, that kind of thing. So I left Camp Lejeune like September, 30th, 2001, and reported to Stuttgart, Germany, November 5th, 2001 to join the IMA det there. And then I spent a couple years in Stuttgart with a little bit of a break. I went home for a couple months and then went back. But all my work was primarily actually in Eastern Europe. We were doing security cooperation work with, they were NATO candidates at the time, the Far Eastern European countries of like Bulgaria, Romania, up in the Baltics as well. It was really interesting work. And then we were supporting at that time Operation Enduring Freedom for Afghanistan. It kicked off, and whatever occurred in our theater where Marines were coming through or we had to support, and then we were supporting them as well. So yeah, those two individuals, I'd just like to point out both. I mean, Don is someone we kind of keep in touch, to this day. He's in the DC area and retired, colonel. So, and there's countless others, people I worked for, people who worked for me, they all had an impact in some way. And it was always, like I said, just, I enjoyed all my time, and the people I served with were overall just great positive relationships. Wow.
Joe, one thing that really, really kind of captivated me about you and the things you do is I had an opportunity to listen to your podcast, and some of the folks you talked to, and how you and I just discussed it. It's stuff that just really, really just, I won't say it's emotionally stirring to hear these people. And your podcast, you don't mince words with nonsense. It's about real, relevant feelings and things that are going on. Like the gentleman from Poplar Grove, I think, from Illinois. Yeah. And when you're watching a podcast, you can't see that he's a quadriplegic. And you're just like, he's talking about, real issues like suicide and depression and transition and how he got back up and just all these things. And what prompted you to want to do something like that? And thank you for doing it, because it's really powerful stuff.
I just, when COVID hit earlier this year, I was like, I want to find, and I've been listening. I started listening to podcasts. I really was not into them in the past. I started listening to some podcasts, and I thought, it seems like I can do just a Teams meeting and record it. And I've never been accused of somebody who doesn't like to talk. So that part was easy. Same. And the first kind of group of people I did it with were people that I was close to. But I learned from everybody. I learned something new from even people that I was fairly close to. So I did a few of them of folks that I either work with or folks that I've known for many years. And then I started branching out to people that I really didn't know. And but they all had very interesting stories. Everyone has a unique story, and they were all veterans. I mean, a couple of them I did. These people were not veterans, and turned out to be some great. I'll tell you one of them just quickly, and I encourage you to go watch it because it's just a great story. Was a woman who actually knows my wife very well. They worked together at Microsoft. Actually, in the past, my wife used to work here as well, and she was a young woman in Orange County, like, I don't know, 17 years old, working at Knott's Berry Farm in the summer. And she had a manager who was another like 20-year-old, just another young woman, and asked her every day, said, hey, will you count up all the change? That was whatever it was. And Cindy, this woman's name, said, well, why are you asking me all the time? She goes, well, you seem to be good with the numbers. So, and everyone else kind of screws it up. And she goes, oh, okay. And then the girl, this young lady, her manager says, are you good at math? And Cindy goes, yeah, I'm not afraid of math. And she goes, well, I'll tell you what, you should go to college and get a computer science degree because they really need women in technology. And Cindy was from a family, college wasn't in her future. It wasn't something that her family, I think she was maybe the first person in her family.
Latin American?
Excuse me?
From Latin America.
Her mother's Mexican American. Yes.
Yeah, yep.
And she's, like I said, from Orange County, California. And so she went and got a computer science degree, ended up working at the Jet Propulsion Lab on the Mars rover as a software developer. And
Jeez.
that's just history. But when she told that story, I just choked up. I was like, man, a Knott's Berry Farm summer job and some other young lady encourage you to go to college to get a computer science degree, and it changed
into a STEM field.
And it
there were women in STEM.
Yeah. So that's just one example, but it's just been fun. And the conversations have been fun. I've tried to make it real easygoing. And you mentioned Noah, who's with the Oscar Mike Foundation. He founded this company for adaptive athletes to play sports in their wheelchairs and the other disabilities that they have. And he was a Marine that came back from deployment. Actually, he had just gotten back from Iraq or Afghanistan, one of the two. And he was in a car accident like 2 days after returning. And
you survive getting shot at downrange, and then you come home and get hit. It's like doing a whole career in the military downrange, and then you come back and get COVID.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's just been fun. It's been, I need to be just on my own kind of. I like to be a little more regular with it. I've kind of been irregular with it these last couple months, but hoping to get on more of a sync with it. But in fact, I just did 2 recent. There's another one that I just did last week with an individual who's a Vietnamese refugee who came to the U.S. Getting out as a young boy in 1975 when South Vietnam fell. It's an incredible story as well. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun, a lot of unique people. It always kind of stirs up, these stories stir up emotions, and they're just great conversations. And yeah, it's cool to share them.
Yeah. Well, Joe, my last question is really the vision for your team, Microsoft Military Affairs, which, by the way, I noticed on the Twitter account for the military team at Microsoft, the hashtag is "We Still Serve," which is remarkably close to our hashtag of "We All Serve." So I just noticed that.
Yeah, I saw when I saw that "We All Serve," because that was "We Still Serve." When I came to Microsoft, that was the hashtag at the time, or that was our tagline, and it's been that ever since. So our community at Microsoft, our employee resource group, that's kind of how we kind of present ourselves is "We Still Serve," and it's part of our branding for the military affairs team as well. So
what's your vision? Tell us a little bit about the vision, the plans, both yourself, what's next for you, and your vision for how your team is going to make an impact on veterans wherever they might be tuning in.
Yeah, so we continue to. Okay, first of all, our military affairs team, and without going into a bunch of detail, we are evolving our Microsoft Software and Systems Academy. So we're going to kind of have a new version of it. We're doing a couple of pilots in February. And then in July of 2021, we'll go to this brand new model of the program. So it'll just have I think it'll have a much greater impact on the tech training of these service members as they transition. So, for us, there's always a couple 100,000 people transitioning from the military every year. So you can't, we're going to have the impact, that we can on the number that we can every year. And we'll continue to try to grow our program and impact more and more. And our goal from the beginning, our mission of our team, and it's never been about Microsoft in and of itself. Like, we don't say we're looking to hire everyone that we put through our program into Microsoft, because we don't. We hire a certain percentage. Our goal is to provide a ramp, so to speak, for someone to transition from the service into a tech career, wherever that may be. And we have a number of employer partners that we work with that hire from our program, and hire quite often. And a lot of these companies are names that you would recognize. And so it's about having that impact on the transition and providing, that opportunity for someone to go through some technical training to set a foundation in technology so that somebody can begin their career, at whatever level that they are, when they complete the program. We do have people that come into our program that have some significant experience already from the service in IT, and it just, they just get to a little higher level when they start their career. So that's kind of the short-term or vision for the team and how we continue to do what we do. We're always just looking for feedback and for more of an opportunity just to make a greater impact. So, and in this new model as well, we'll be able to impact more. We're going to more of a virtual hybrid model where we'll be delivering in that way. And so I think we'll be able to impact more and more service members, as we won't be installation specific. And we work with a lot of partners, and that's kind of the Microsoft way of doing business. Is we're a company that works with partners, so our customers are partners as well, and that's just sort of how Microsoft does business. So we work with a number of partners. Our veteran service organizations that we work with are always part of the recipe of making this all happen, and we value their contributions and all the work that they do as well to kind of support the transition of service members and the military community as a whole. We hope to have impact on the spouse community, and we do a program throughout the year as well called Youth Spark for the military children. It's kind of a digital skills day. We've gone to a virtual delivery, but in the past we'd go to a military base and do this Youth Spark day for several hundred young children who are military dependent. So,
wow.
Thanks for putting that's our website, military.microsoft.com. You can find a little bit about more about our team and what we do. There's a lot on our blog page. There's a lot of great stories of the people we've had impact on and what they're doing today after they've completed our program. So please check it out. And like I said, I appreciate the visibility of what we do.
That's so important. Angel, as always, I'll turn it to you for final questions.
All right. No further questions at this time, Senator or Council?
That sounds like a trial going on here.
I know. That's how we get down. No, what I wanted to say was thank you so much. I can think of very few people that walk the talk the way you do, and what continue to pay it back, and what a rewarding. I think people are rewarded for their character long term and for their contribution and selfless efforts. And I think you're one of those people that just keeps paying it forward and giving. And we're so grateful, not just to have you on our podcast, but as a service member for everything you do to help our brothers and sisters make that transition and kind of smooth it over. So
even from the Army.
Even those guys need more help than anybody. They need a lot of help.
My whole team's Army, so I can't say anything bad about the
That's
Army.
okay. I'll do it because they beat us this year.
That's true. It was a bad day for me.
It was a bad day, but thank you again. That's all I have.
No, thank you guys. I appreciate the time today, and it's a lot of people. It's not an individual effort, as you guys know. This is a team effort, and giving back to the community. It's good work. So it makes you feel good at the end of the day, and keeps you getting up every morning with a smile on your face, ready to hopefully make an impact on somebody and contribute to somebody's success. So
that's the measure right there.
That's right. And honestly, Joe, I really hope that what you're doing is going to inspire folks from across the business world, small business, big business. It really doesn't matter. Really, the theme of this program we all serve is that everybody has the opportunity to make a difference. And you guys are, as Angel just said, you personally are walking the talk, and you guys are having an impact. So thank you for doing that. I do hope folks will check out the website, military.microsoft.com. Check out your podcast. Sounds like some fascinating conversations.
Yeah, can we put a link on there somewhere for his podcast? Is that okay, Joe? Can we do that?
You find me on LinkedIn. If you go to Joe Wallis on LinkedIn, I post my podcast on LinkedIn, so you'll be able to see when lights keep going off in this office. I don't know what's going on, but so you can find me on LinkedIn. Just JoeWallis. It's not You'll see my. I need to update the photo for those who are going. Hey, that guy looks a bit younger. In that
Look at that. Look at that.
There you
Shalom
go.
is the tech. You guys need to hire Shalom. Look at
Oh,
that
yeah.
cool stuff that he just did right there. It's magic. I can't do that.
Absolutely magic. Yeah, I know, Angela, you can. No, absolutely. No, check out the podcast and really, Joe, appreciate all that you're doing, and definitely looking forward to having you come back and visit with us again. We'll be posting this conversation all over, and definitely, if you like the conversation, click share. Makes it easier for people to find it. This message is not just for veterans. This message, actually, probably more important, are for folks. As we always say, we all serve. So, with that, we will draw this conversation to a close. We've got another great conversation lined up next week. Navy guy, Angel, Navy guy. I'll get to make fun of two people.
I'm winning the war on high prices.
Yeah, there we go. All right, thank you guys, and have a good evening.